them. We're going to talk a little bit midlife, a little bit boundaries, a little bit, life advice. I like when I hear her talk about boundaries. Hi there.
Hi, friend.
Good to see you.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you on this Friday?
Fantastic.
Good. I love it. I know exactly, where you are and how you're gonna be. With, you're like just so calm and easygoing, and I feel relaxed the minute I see you.
Excellent.
Good.
Even with some tech problems, right? Forget it.
Exactly. Well, I was just explaining to everybody what we were going to talk a little bit about, but I've been thinking a lot about boundaries lately, and I know that you're the boundary boss, and I think we all have to be our own boundary boss. But I'm thinking about it specifically in midlife, but for people who don't know you, I explained a little bit about you, but you have a boundary boot camp. You've written a book about boundaries. Talk a little bit about where you come from into this space.
Well, I've been a psychotherapist for 25 years. And, what do they say? You teach what you most need to learn. So I was a friggin' boundary disaster in my 20s for sure.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand that my disordered boundaries and lack of boundaries was creating all this resentment in my relationships. And I felt very like people are taking advantage of me,
Sure.
Until I had a bunch of therapy and I realized that I was splaying myself out on a silver platter. I was literally doing it on my own. And that was the beginning of shifting and changing. And then after being a talent agent for a bunch of years, I became a psychotherapist because I was so obsessed with my own therapy. I just couldn't even believe how much my life could change and that how I was empowered to change my life. And when I became a therapist, I saw the same exact thing. Tamsen, everybody didn't know squat about boundaries and were like thinking it's everyone else. Like if my boss weren't a jerk, if my husband wasn't an idiot, if my sister wasn't bad, if this one. And so I was like, wow, this is an epidemic.
Yeah, I agree.
Not knowing squat about boundaries. And it became obvious that the first book that I should write should be about that. And I did.
You know what's funny? Because I think it's really, I think it's everybody, but I think it's women in particular. And I always think about this, and I'll date myself a little bit here, but I think it was early 90s when I first got into TV. And there was a book that Kate White wrote called Why Good Girls Don't Get Ahead, But Gutsy Girls Do. And I just remember that, and I don't even know if they used the word boundaries, if she used the word boundaries in that book, but she really did talk about the fact that you kind of have to protect yourself, right? And you have to protect who you are, and being like the good girl, nice, and always accommodating everybody wasn't really the answer, to being successful in life, not necessarily just getting ahead. I think that words would be different nowadays if she were to write that again. But it did give me room for pause back then, but more so now as, gosh, the world is coming at us so fast, right? You never have a break. You never have room to pause. And that's really what I think that the boundaries are all about.
Totally agree. And here's the thing. Think about your boundaries we think about them as our own personal rules of engagement. Sure. Letting other people know what's okay with us and what's not okay with us. And in the way of pausing, as you said, we have to give ourselves permission to pause. And by having appropriate and proactive boundaries in place with other people, we build in our right to pause, to not give anyone an immediate answer to something. We're allowed to be like, hey, I'm going to let you know tomorrow, or I have a 24-hour decision-making policy for my sanity. I'll let you know in 24 or 48 hours. Like, this is your right. But I think when you're raised as good girls, like, why don't any of us know this? Tamsen, if we were going to say, like, why don't we know?
Yeah.
Because nobody taught us. It's like, we learned the opposite.
Yeah, absolutely. We learned the opposite. We learned if you want to, pleasing people is the successful part of it all. That's what's going to make you successful as a person, successful as a woman.
Yep.
Yeah, you're so right about that. So I just want to do some shout outs to some different people. Here in Denver is with us, which I always love to see all the different places. South Africa. Very nice. My cousin is there as well right now. I saw Florida a little bit earlier. So I do want to let people open it up to ask a few questions, but I talk about midlife, and I think that, right now when we look at it, people are tackling a lot of different things, right? They're tackling maybe a new relationship. They're tackling kids leaving home, trying to figure, redefine life. How do you get quiet enough to figure out how to do that? Because I think that that's a big question, I'm sure, that you get often in your practice and with different people that talk to you.
Well, you need, as you evolve and as your life cycle changes, your boundaries also need to change.
Yeah.
So the way we relate to adult children when we're empty nested is different than we relate to a 15-year-old. And I think that it's very important that we realize there's nothing wrong with our boundaries changing and that they need to change. But your question was, how do we create this space?
Mm-hmm.
And here's the thing. Our goal, especially in midlife, is, according to me, right? Not God, just me, is becoming the observer without judgment.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Right? Get radically curious about why you're relating the way that you are. Why are you having this response internally or this reaction? What is going on for you? This is how we build a healthy and loving relationship with ourselves, because we are complex human beings.
Aren't we though?
Right?
Aren't we though? You're really right about that. I mean, that does make a lot of sense. And I have seen that curiosity. I was in this stage at one point, like, now what? Now what am I supposed to be doing? And I feel like even not midlife, but people younger and younger are feeling like that. They struggle to kind of like, figure out what's going on next, get a little bit quiet with themselves, sort out what it is that they really want. And most important, I think, of everything else is figure out how to say no to the things that don't serve them. I have a tough time with that. I got 2 emails this morning that were like, hey, I'm putting this, I don't know how people say it nowadays, like, I just want to put this back up at the top of your inbox or whatever it is. What is there's like a phrase people
like
use.
Floating this back up to the top.
Floating this back up to the top of your inbox. I'm like, I don't need you to float it. I got it 3 other ones. So it's really hard for people to, I think, to say no or not deal with something right away. How do you go about teaching people to know?
Well, part of it is, I think that we can learn how to buy time, right? So if you're an insta yes person, if you're kind of a yes girl, that it might be a little threatening to go from being all yes to all no, let's say, right? And it doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't. You can't do it.
Right, we're not doing it that way. But buying time and teaching people, because we've trained people to expect what they get from us. We've trained them.
Yes.
So now, right? That's right. Now we want to retrain them to do something else. So I have a couple of ideas of ways that you can buy time. So if someone asks you to do something you don't want to do, and normally you would think it was rude not to give an answer right there, you're going to buy time. So if someone says, hey, do you and your husband want to do something with us Saturday night, or we're having a party, come to it, you can say, hey, I need to check my schedule and I'll get back to you by Thursday, right? Like, get into the mode of, and even as we said before, just say, actually, I don't know. I have a 24-hour decision-making policy. I'll let you know tomorrow. We can be funny. We can be cute. It can be tongue-in-cheek.
Yeah.
But
that's so great. That's great, because it sounds so easy, but if you're not training yourself to have that answer, you have to plan to have that answer.
Yes, we are being proactive. The most successful, when we want to change ingrained behaviors, we have to get proactive and think, where do I get sucked in? Where do I get caught up? Where do I say yes when I want to say no, and then resent the shit out of the person, or resent the crap out of myself, or resent it all? Like,
I know. And you get to that day, and I found myself sometimes like, why did I say yes to this? What was I thinking? Because you just want to like either answer it right away and you're not thinking. But you're right. You really do owe it to yourself to give yourself a little bit of time. And I think that presents that calmness.
What ends up happening, though, is that when you give a maybe, an honest maybe, meaning I'm not sure, I need to look, it is so much easier to come back and say no when you haven't already given an insta yes that you're going to regret. Because a lot of times, if we give an insta yes, do you ever notice that you can find a way to get the hell out of that thing, even though you said you'd do it? You might then be like, I don't know, I woke up with a migraine. Like, you know what I mean? When you really don't want to do something that you've agreed to, It's like, I'll be thinking of all the ways of like,
I know.
do I really have to go? Do I really have to go all the way to the city? Do I, why did I say I would do this? So I think it's important that you guys give yourself the space that you need to be able to respond, and respond in a way that is honoring you and how you feel.
Oh God, it actually feels good to hear you say it, because I think it's really a big deal. And I watch a lot of your videos, and I listen to them, and I know that, and anytime you're talking to me, and I'm seeing that thousands of people, tens of thousands of people are, agreeing with it. So let me see if we can get some questions in here, because I've seen some comments coming. Redheaded Writing Hood says, I feel what's next. I'm 56. I left my ex. I travel around the U.S. For a year. I'm a writer, and I need to do my next book. Next is a big thing nowadays.
Yep. And it's one of those things that we need the time and space to really dial into our heart's desire, not just what's next because what's expected of me.
Yeah.
Right. And so much of your work is about this too, is sort of like being true to yourself and being like, is this really what I want to do? And even if the status quo or someone else thinks I should be doing something else, it's really, I think the biggest takeaway of having good boundaries and being healthy is that what you think, how you feel, and what you want needs to be the most important thing to you. To you. And yes, we can compromise, and we will in relationships, of course. But a lot of times people are like, well, that's selfish. I'm like, no, that is not selfish. That is being healthy and knowing who the hell you are. Because how can we be authentic in relationships if we don't prioritize what we think, how we feel, and what we want?
We have a good question. I like this one from Al Kim. How do you say no at work without feeling like you look bad? I think that's a tough one. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's age that I think that with age, I felt a little more comfortable maybe, but regardless, saying no at work, you don't want to be the lazy person that's disappointed somebody. So how do you go about doing that? Because you've got to have a good way for that.
Yes, but here's the thing. If you're the person who's worrying about that, you're not the lazy person, right? Because the lazy person doesn't give a crap. Yep. The lazy person is sloughing stuff off to other people.
Right.
So part of it is thinking about it from the point of view that if you don't have the bandwidth to properly do the thing that they're trying to put on your plate, you're not going to do a great job. So part of it is you really need to come from the point of view of, can I do this? Yeah. So again, this is the perfect place where you buy time, and someone at work says, can you take this off my plate? And you say, hey, I need to actually really look at what's on my plate, which I'll do tonight, and I'll let you know tomorrow if I have the bandwidth to take it on.
I like that because because otherwise you wind up disappointing people because you take so much on and something just falls through the wayside. All right, we have one more. Kath Tort, when does supporting a friend cross the line to enabling?
Well, it depends on what your idea of supporting.
Yeah. Right.
So if you're lending them money that they're never paying you back, if you are covering for them at work because they're an alcoholic and didn't go into work because they're hungover, like enabling means that you're doing more for that person, that you're doing things that they should be doing for themselves, but it's like unhealthy helping is what we would put enabling. That's the category we would put enabling in, because if you are getting them to be dependent on you when they should be doing those things themselves, that is unhealthy. And you can check your own resentment around this person, because if it's unhealthy helping, you're going to kind of be a little pissed off about the amount that you're doing for them.
Oh my gosh, we got lots of questions coming in. Should I keep firing them at you? Or
please do. I love it. That's my fave.
How do you differentiate between passion and profession?
Well, it depends on who you are.
Yeah.
Right? Some families tell you that they can't be the same. I think I'm married to a very successful illustrator, artist, visual journalist, so I know they can't be the same. Some people are possessed, right? Some people are possessed by what they're doing, where they literally, my husband's like, dude, I couldn't do anything else. Like, I have no other skill, which is not true. So I think that you have to decide, and if it's your passion, can you figure out a way to make a living doing it? Because there's nothing wrong with simply having a passion as a hobby, as something else. But unless you're independently wealthy, we all got to make some money, you know?
Maria, what is a healthy way to say no to someone you owe a lot to without having them resent you? That's a good question.
It's a great question, but here's the reality. Whether they do or don't resent you is their side of the street. Your side of the street is, do you feel that what they did for you came with strings?
Mm-hmm.
And there's an expectation that it's sort of quid pro quo, as opposed to, did they give from you to you with equanimity and love and an open heart because they wanted to?
Right.
You know what I mean? So if it's like, you owe me, I don't know. I don't feel like that's so super loving. And
I don't feel like that's really a friend, because I feel like if somebody's giving you something like that, that should be an unconditional. That should be an unconditional if they're doing that, you know, voluntarily, unless it's something that it shouldn't be a quid pro quo to, you know, I don't know. I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
How do you stop obsessive thoughts when your ex is happy, especially when he was dishonest and cheated, but you kept thinking he will always find love? Oh, I talked a little bit about this today with regard to divorce on a video, but yeah, obsessive thoughts are not easy, especially when there's an ex involved. What do you say?
I think it's about what you're making it mean. So what is the meaning to you of your ex being happy?
Yeah.
Is it you're continuing to re-injure yourself by, first of all, how do you even know he's happy? Because my first rule of breakup is we unfollow and block, and together we agree this. I'm not saying, unless they're being abusive, I'm not saying do it to be mean to them.
Yeah.
You say, hey, it'll be easier for us both to move on if we make a clean break, and let's just, even for just 6 months to a year, let's just not follow each other, because it's painful for me to see what's going on and I'm making it mean all these things. So I think that you've got to block this person on social media immediately. And what you're doing, and unconsciously, I'm going to guess, and I could be wrong, I don't think I am. Sometimes we obsess over our exes and follow them on social and do all of this because it's like unconsciously a way that we stay connected to them.
Oh, yeah.
Even though how we're connected is through pain and through stress. So you deserve better than that.
I also think it makes us think like, I can, you know, this didn't work, but we can still be friends because I can have a, you know, this wasn't a failure. This wasn't a failed relationship. We can still be friends and still keep this in a nice, just a different box. And the truth is, it shouldn't be in any box. I mean, it should be, you know, off the table. But I mean, I did it for a long time. I thought, well, I can balance both, have both, struggle both, and then I realized that I was literally, you know, I was torn apart doing that, doing it to myself. So I want you to tell people you have a boundary, the book, The Boundary Boss, but you also have Boundary Boot Camp. Is that still available?
I do. Actually, we're going into the second week, but if people are interested, they can check it out at terricole.com/BB 2023. It's so friggin' good. Another thing though that I wanted to give people, Tamsen, because I feel like there's a lot of confusion about our own style of disordered boundaries.
Okay, good. Tell me.
So I feel like I created this really amazing 13-question quiz. That's it. And it will give you the archetype. So you could be a peacekeeper, you could be a chameleon, you could be an ice queen. So just go to boundaryquiz.com.
Okay.
Super simple. And then once you'll get your results in a video form, and I'll give you ideas of things that you can do to strengthen your boundary skill set from where you are. Because we're all different. Like people, you know, Tamsen, people think like it's only that I'm a pushover, right? Having disordered boundaries is only that. It's not true. Like disordered boundaries comes in different flavors. The person who's like my way or the highway,
right.
That's having too rigid boundaries. And the person who's like, oh yeah, it's all about you, that's having too loose boundaries. So anyway, I feel like that is like one of the most helpful things that people can do is go to boundaryquiz.com.
I love that. I think that's so helpful. And then of course, Boundary Boss, you can get on Amazon or anywhere that, you know, you get your books.
Yes. And I also they can go to boundarybossbook.com too if you want all of the bonuses that I still have.
Wonderful. Good. Yeah, I highly recommend your book. Okay, we got a few more questions before we wrap up.
Do it.
We are staying connected because the children, they need to see us help. Well, it says they need to see us healthy and have a good relationship, question mark.
If you can stay connected,
Yeah.
be healthy, and have a good relationship, then yeah, that's definitely optimal. So again, no contact. I don't mean that when you got kids together.
Yeah.
Because I do believe you're attached to that person till the end of time. So, and hopefully you can make it as healthy as possible. So yes, thank you for bringing that up, because I think that probably wasn't clear to other people as well.
Okay. I have so many frustrations with my older son. I feel like my ex is enabling him. He's smart, but struggles with anxiety and depression. About to be 33. What can I do? I guess our oldest son is about to be 33.
Yeah. All you can do is relate to him like he is relate to his highest self.
Yeah.
Relate to him a way that makes sense to you. Your husband is enabling. There's nothing you can do. You can have the conversation with your husband. You can say, hey, I see this as a pattern. It's really important though, because I had this when I married a widower with 3 teenage sons. And, I saw this enabling behavior with my husband and the boys at different points. And I was so clear saying, every time you are bailing them out of something, giving them money that they were supposed to have themselves, whatever the thing is, what you're saying is, you think you're a loser, and I agree with you. I think you're a loser too. I don't think you can do it. So I'm going to center this around me. I'm going to save you. What we want to say to adult kids and even older teenage kids is, I believe in you. You're going to figure this out. I have faith. Your gut instinct is good. We're here to support you, but we're not bailing you out. They have to experience some consequences for bad choices. And I'm not talking about like, if you can stop them, I'm not talking about being mean.
No,
I'm talking about letting them take responsibility for themselves. But that was a huge shift in my husband's ability to relate to them differently. So maybe that will help you. Maybe you can have that conversation with your husband.
That's great. Okay, we'll do one last one. Farrelly 81 is asking, how should I engage my new stepchildren, and what kind of boundaries should I look for or perhaps set? I don't know what the ages are, Farrah. Maybe.
Anyway, I've got great advice, because I'm like, that's definitely my wheelhouse.
Okay.
Part of it is, it matters if the mom is the bio mom is in the picture.
Sure.
If the bio mom's alive, it's sort of one vibe. If she has died, that's another thing, because I came into a different situation.
Sure.
Anyway, so you want to know that and be thoughtful and mindful.
15 and 20. I'm sorry, 15 and 20 years old.
Got it. Okay. So, and is the mother, the bio mom alive? That's another good thing. Okay. You want to be a loving other to those kids. Like, in your own mind, you're not, even with my kids where their mom had died, right. I was not like, hi, I'm your mom. Like, I was like, I'm going to be a good person in the life of these kids.
Yeah.
I'm going to listen to them.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell them what to do. I'm not going to be bossing them around. I'm going to patiently be present, stay present. How was your day? Have the conversation. Remember what they talk about. One of my kids was like 13 at the time, and he was like, wanted to only talk about cars and shit I was not interested in. I remember saying to my therapist, what is the deal with this kid? And she was like, Terri, talk about cars.
Right.
He's trying to engage you. Right. And I was like, I cannot believe how dumb I am that I literally was like, I'm not interested in cars. She was like, hello, it's not about cars, you idiot. So whatever they want to talk about that. If they're interested in something, get interested in that. But slow and steady, be grown up.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Terri, I always love to talk to you. Thank you.
This was so much fun.
I feel like I talk to you anyway all the time, because I'm following you all the time. You pop up every morning for me, so it's good. But it's always good to see you guys. Thanks for joining us on this Friday. We'll do this some more. I think it's really important. And,
yes, I love it. I love it so much. It was so great. To be continued. Thank you, my friend.
Good. All right.
Bye, you guys.
Have a great weekend.
Yeah, you too.
Bye-bye.